It's October, which means it's time to experience and re-experience all things horror. Whether that means playing your favorite game, checking out those cheesy slasher films, or even going back in time to view something you may not have since you were very young. Something that still sticks with you to this day that, in some way, left an impression you can't quite describe. And for me, this was a series that aired back on Adult Swim in the very early 2000s, and was my first real taste of how anime can handle the horror genre. So grab a seat and we'll dim the lights as we dive into Blue Gender. Hi my friends, I'm Mike and welcome to the Lions Lounge. Blue Gender is a 1999 sci-fi post-apocalyptic horror series that ran in the US in 2003 and followed Yuji Kaido, a man who's awoken from an induced coma to a world he no longer recognizes. One that's been overrun by massive bugs that have all but wiped out mankind. Now normally this would be the part where I start spoiling the whole plot, and I will be giving some cliff notes, but because of how, well, niche the series is, I instead want to shine a light why I think it's worth your time this holiday season. And of course, at the very end, I'll be making a cocktail inspired by the show. First off, if you've seen a lot of post-apocalyptic series involving creatures attacking people, you probably have a general gist of how this world functions. Mainly that the arrival of these bugs, known as the Blue, appeared almost out of nowhere and quickly decimated most of humanity. A group of survivors banding together to build a space station in Earth's orbit and migrated there with the hopes of one day reclaiming the planet. And what's kind of crazy is that rewatching this series for the first time in decades, I'd forgotten a pretty major plot point that I wouldn't really call a spoiler here, just that not everyone made it off the planet. Or to be more precise, not everyone was allowed off of the planet. Only humanity's best and brightest and wealthiest made it off. The rest of the population were treated as if they were trash, something our protagonist Yuji is horrified to find. You can probably already see that the cynical side of me honestly really thinks that if a situation like this did happen, it would be the rich and powerful that would make it out alive. But I digress. The story itself does touch on this aspect, and it comes up quite a few times, feeding into the disparity between Yuji, having been born and raised before the Blue's appearance, and those who have lived after, growing up in this harsh, militarized world, prioritizing the mission first and individual life second. The soldiers' goals through half the series being solely to get Yuji to second Earth at any cost. Of course, I wouldn't be recommending this show if it was just a survivor horror series. Don't get me wrong, those are fun. But some of my favorite pieces of media live and die on character interactions and growth. And this series definitely has it, especially in both Yuji and the other primary character he encounters upon waking up, the soldier Marlene Angel. Marlene belongs to that other world I spoke of before, one who's grown up knowing almost nothing but the terror of the Blue, and being forced to train since childhood to attempt to eliminate them, causing her to be cold and ruthless. But it's Yuji's caring nature and optimism for humanity that helps slowly change Marlene and becomes her driving force in the latter half of the show, even so much as her starting to take a leading role. The interactions between Marlene and Yuji evolve, and they both have a major impact on each other's growth, to the point that when Marlene eventually re-encounters fellow soldiers, they scoff at how sympathetic she's become. And this is just one of the many instances where the show will focus on these aspects of humanity in this world, both the dark side and the hopeful. Now, what I've yet to touch on is the art style and action of the series. And I have to say, I was surprised to find it really still holds up. The character designs, especially for the main cast, have a semi-realistic style. I particularly love Marlene's design, as it exudes both a quiet beauty, but also strength that clearly comes from years of fighting. As you've probably already noticed as well, this is basically a sort of mecha series in that the characters battle the Blue primarily via armored units that become far more detailed and agile as the series goes on. The Blue themselves also have a very striking appearance, and as there are a decent variety of them, They each have their own strengths and quirks, the most prominent feature being their core, their weak spot that, when destroyed, kills the blue as well, something that becomes increasingly more difficult over time as the blue are constantly evolving. The fight scenes with the blue are always tense, and seeing a new variant appear and the character's reactions to the new blue sends shivers down your spine, combined with the eerie and unsettling melodies played during these scenes and the dark color palettes. Lastly, one aspect of the show I want to focus on is what I consider its core message: fighting for the future in the hopes of a better tomorrow. As Yuji is first awoken to this alien world, he's understandably shaken by the loss of everyone he's known and sinks into a deep depression, feeling that he would have been better off dying in his sleep. But as he meets Marlene and their survivors on Earth and sees them struggle to live on despite seemingly insurmountable odds, he starts to change, and his drive to defeat the blue and return the planet to humanity grows. His resolve wavers at times, but this makes the story even more compelling, as you watching relate to Yuji, and each of the characters he encounters don't just feel like extras, but real individuals that help shape who he later becomes. Blue Gender has a lot of violence, horror, and at times nihilism. There's often questions of destiny versus free will, and what it means to truly live. But I feel the message of this series that really resonated with me is finding the strength to see the good in life and to fight for it. That despite all the terrors of the world, there's still hope that allows you to keep on pushing forward. And I can happily say, after nearly 2 decades since my last watch, I love this series far more than I did before. And if you want something different to get you excited for the Halloween season, you won't go wrong with Blue Gender. Now finally, my friends, today's cocktail is pretty on brand with what you think I'd make for this show, in that it's blue, but there's a few extras included to give it some more pizzazz and some more bursts of flavor. So this is gonna be a shake and drink that I'm gonna start off with some pineapple Jamaican rum. I don't often get a chance to use this rum, so when I was making the recipe for this, I figured it would be a perfect combination with the rest of these flavors. So this is gonna be 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters. Next, 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of lemon juice. Then 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of lime juice. 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of simple syrup. And lastly, 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of Blue Curacao. This is an orange liqueur with blue food coloring. Add some ice and give it a shake for about 12 seconds. Then take a coupe glass and add a small ice cube to it, which will mostly help with the garnish. Then strain into the glass. Now add a Barspoon of Grenadine over top of the ice. This adds a little bit of pomegranate sweetness and bitterness, but it also sinks to the bottom like blood. And then finally, I'm gonna garnish it with twists of lemon and lime. This is essentially to simulate DNA. And there you have what I dub the blue. So immediately on the nose, you get that Jamaican rum, which is the overripe banana, and then obviously the oils from the lemon and the lime. Cheers. Ooh, that is a lot sweeter than you'd think it would be. What's great is it's not overly sweet, and I feel that the Jamaican pineapple rum is a huge part of that. This rum sits at 40%, which is pretty standard, but because it's Jamaican rum, it tends to be a lot more in your face. But there's a lot of other flavors helping kind of temper it a little bit. The lemon juice adding a bit more tartness, the lime juice adding some sweetness, then a little bit more sweetness from the simple syrup, and a bit of bitterness from that grenadine. Blue Curacao also tends to be pretty sweet, but it's not the dominant flavor here. You do get some small orange notes, but for the most part, you get the pineapple, overripe banana flavors with a bit of tartness. Overall, this is a really good sweet cocktail and something I wouldn't be surprised to get if I was on a beach. I also really like the color of it. It's sort of a bluish green with a tinge of red at the very bottom. I have to say I'm really glad I found another use for this pineapple rum. It's something I really enjoy, but it doesn't really work in a boatload of cocktails. But if you're essentially making a tropical drink, it's perfect for it. So today we made the Blue, inspired by Blue Gender, a 1999 sci-fi horror anime series. Please give the show a chance if you can. It's a fantastic series that's only 26 episodes long and well worth your time. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a like. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. If you have any cocktails you'd like me to make from your favorite series, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see what I make outside this channel, follow me on Twitter at Mr. Space Lion, or Instagram at mr.spacelion. But friends, thank you so much for stopping by the Lions Lounge. I've been your bartender, Mike, and I hope to see you next time.